rescheduling and taking the time to speak all things the Spore. I guess we should probably start with the fact that it's screening at Grimfest in a couple of weeks now. How are you feeling about the event?
I'm excited for it. It's very cool to see it, play to the public, and it's because it's been such a long process to get it out there. Um, I'm, I guess I could say over the moon about it. I'm excited to see what the audience thinks of it. Excited to kind of hear what the feedback is on the movie and everything. Well, like nervous and excited. You have a movie coming out, and you're like, hopefully people are going to like it. They're not going to like it. So what, it is what it is there.
Yeah, and I guess for those that haven't read up on it yet, what is without too many spoilers, what's the film about?
It's basically about a fungus that kind of spreads, and it, without giving too much away, it's sort of a mutating fungus, so when it gets to people, things they start to change, and I was definitely kind of influenced in that space with George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, and John Carpenter. The Thing kind of wanted to make something, at my level of independent filmmaking that we could create for that. So I guess that's it in a nutshell.
I guess where did why did the idea originate from? How did you come up with it?
Well, I think I was listening to some news. It was either on the radio or something, maybe TV, but I heard this thing about the polar ice caps melting, or ice, in Antarctica, kind of as things are melting and global warming and stuff is happening. There tends to be things that are hidden in the ice that there's I think they were saying there's could be like spores or bacteria or who knows what that's hiding in this ice for who knows how long, and if it gets out there, what could it be? How dangerous could it be? So that just kind of sparked this idea of wanting to do something like on a regional, local level. Like, what if something was here and it got out and it started getting to people, and then it starts spreading, and then in the background with the radio report, it's like, oh no, now it's kind of going everywhere. And this idea, or the film, we basically shot the film and wrapped it a week before the pandemic hit and we all got shut down here. Yeah, so it was kind of strange, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you're capitalizing on the pandemic. I had no idea that was going to happen, so it's a little eerie that art imitates life and life imitates art, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing obviously, with the thing that we were discussing earlier, maybe you should stop sort of thinking of things, because you seem to be sort of like breathing them into life.
Yeah, that's what everybody said. Maybe you should think about what you write next. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm being very careful.
and I guess over the last few years, there has been a rise in I think what's being termed eco horror.
Mhm.
I think I've seen a few films where nature has been cast as the bad guy. Why do you think that the films that this trend is appearing? What do you think it is that you filmmakers are trying to say?
Well, I think horror films have always tapped into what's going on in society. There's always been that conversation about Night of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre during the Vietnam era and stuff like that, and like what that, whether they're directly speaking to those things, but there's something about the fear that everybody in society has. And I think as filmmakers, we're kind of tapped into that idea of, for me especially, it's kind of like earth fighting back right now. With there's so much stuff going on, between hurricanes and floods, like just crazy stuff going on. And I feel like that is very much in the zeitgeist of everybody's minds, of like, okay, well, there are things out there that we have no idea. It's like bacterias and spores and viruses and all these things that are kind of popping up, and they're coming, it could be earthborn. So I think that's big right now. I think that the unknown of what can happen on the planet that we live on, kind of coming back and attacking us, is very timely and scary. For me, it scares me because I'm like, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know what's going to happen, like the earth's going to crack open, we're all going to fall in. Who knows? I guess I probably shouldn't say that.
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks. The Spore, it's an ensemble piece, but your
Mhm,
ensemble is, sort of, spaced apart and never really all together. And why
mhm.
did you decide to sort of break your story down in that way? Because I guess obviously, most people would think, oh well, they filmed with the pandemic, so that's why there's only a couple of people in this scene and a few people in that scene. But like you say, this was made before that. So what drove that idea?
Um, well, I would say part of it was filming, like I didn't want wasn't like trying to make like an anthology, but I wanted it to be a thread like going through, but just kind of dropping into people's lives and seeing this moment, of it kind of almost as if we're just kind of following the spore along, as opposed to maybe just a character is like, well, what happens if it just keeps, if this thing goes to this person to this person, what if we track with it like that, instead of like just give me one person and they go all the way through the movie. So I guess I just wanted to try something a little unique in that way, and hopefully it works. So that was kind of the idea, just dipping in and being kind of like a fly on the wall and watching these people, observing what happens as we go along.
Like you say, it does in a way sort of feel a little bit like an anthology. So I'm guessing that that did help with the logistics of the shooting, because it was almost like you were making like several shorts instead of one big
Yeah.
thing. So as an indie filmmaker, that gives you a bit more flexibility to work around people's schedules.
Oh, absolutely. And especially when you have these segments, and we want, we're kind of stretching it out over a little bit of time, as opposed to like, oh, this all happened in 5 days. It's like, no, this is something that's kind of continuing on. So, okay, we're going to start here in end of summer and this stuff happens, but then it's kind of continuing on into the winter months. So you can kind of expanding and showing this, breadth of time that we can do on our, on our budget level. And also, give a sense that this thing is just that it's not stopping.
And the film was done just before the pandemic, in terms of shooting. So I'm guessing that meant a lot of post production was done remotely. What was that experience like?
Well, I do a lot of editing. Well, I do the editing at home and stuff, so I have a whole system set up and everything. So once we got shut down, it was like, okay, well, I'm working from home. So but I will say it was kind of difficult because our kids then weren't going to school. So there was like, okay, now it's time to do some helping with the, homeschooling or the virtual schooling. And, who's prepared to be a teacher besides, like all of a sudden now you're kind of like thrown into like, oh, okay, now I've got to wear this hat, teaching. And then now, okay, I got to put on the editing hat. And so you're kind of trying to juggle all that stuff. So I think the post for the film took a little longer than I would have liked it to take. But mostly for that reason, and so a lot of it was just kind of done here, early mornings, late nights, uh, getting through it. And then once we had a deadline of delivery, that really kind of amped it up. So I did not get a lot of sleep.
Didn't fancy adding, some how to edit a film onto the kids' curriculum?
Yeah. Yes, they got to listen to it a lot when they my son is probably said, like sitting 6 feet away from me at doing his schoolwork. And so his class can see me in the background editing and doing stuff. They're probably like, what is going on back there? Just dad walking around in his pajamas, drinking coffee, editing a movie. And but there was times when he just did not want to hear, because I'm like, okay, I got to turn up, because I would do it on my headphones, but then I'm
Yeah.
like, I gotta turn up the sound so I can really hear what's going on. And he just was not a fan of that, because it's like, it sounds too scary.
Um, I guess the film is it's coming out over here in October. October is obviously the big spooky season.
Mhm.
Halloween's coming up. Do you have any sort of go-to horror films?
Oh my gosh, I think I've been yes, just for the Halloween season specifically, you know,
Yeah.
like what do I always, oh, every year, well, I definitely watch Halloween. That's like my, you know, go-to. I love Halloween 3. I know that's one of those movies that, you know, I think that movie has definitely had this kind of slow build to becoming a
Yeah.
fan favorite. But man, I love that movie. That and The Blob, the 1988 version. I love that one. Um, those, I was trying to think of like, I was actually kind of like making my list, like, okay, what do I got to watch again? So I go through my cabinet of all my movies and I'm like, oh, I got to watch that. I got to watch that, watch that. But I definitely kind of go through probably what most people go through watching the Halloween movies. Um, I'm a huge fan of like New Zealand horror and horror comedy. So watch a lot of that too, like Deathgasm. And I kind of have Turbo Kid on repeat all the time. That's a big one. I love that movie, so I watch that all the time. And The Thing, definitely. So a lot of, you know, um, geez, I'm looking at my cabinet over there to see, like, I can see your wall behind you, and I'm like, what does she have in there?
It's mainly TV just behind me. The
Oh,
films
is
sort
it
of
really?
yeah.
Well, do you have stuff that you watched? I mean, you guys kind of get into the whole season over there, or?
It's not as big over here. The last like 10 or so years, it's become bigger each year. I think that's because like one of our supermarket chains is now a Walmart company. So I guess it sort of
Oh,
come
yeah,
comes
sure.
comes through that. But
Yeah.
like me and my mum have always been like Halloween has been like our Christmas. So, you know,
Yes.
we're quite happy that you know, the rest of England is sort of catching up. So yeah, we I mean, I do like everybody else just sort of like goes to the supermarket and buys like a bag of candy, but I like make like little party bags like with all different candy, but it all has to be Halloween themed. It can't be just like a Mars bar or something. It has to be like a skeleton something and like
Yeah.
a brain lollipop or something. I have to do that. So yeah, we've kind of got a reputation around here for being like the house that you want to go trick or treating at, because you get like this bag full of sweets. So yeah,
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, our house is looks like a Halloween store exploded in it, but it's kind of funny. Our house is like that year round, and
yeah,
you know, it sounds cliche. You're like, oh, you make horror films, and your house is like a house, but it's just kind of like we all kind of like it. I would say we're like the Addams family on the block. You know, where our outside decorations are just crazy. We have this big carnival theme going this year outside, and you know, just a thing you got to do.
yeah. I mean, I'm really looking forward to like my little one getting older, and then I'm, you know, planning on sort of like redecorating like our back garden and making it so that people have to come to trick or treat through the back garden.
Yeah.
'Cause our front is like straight onto sort of like the road onto a pavement, so we don't really have much space out there. But we're
Oh,
thinking
okay.
of doing something sort of diverting people all around the back, and then they can come through the garden.
Oh, that would be like a little haunted garden kind of feel. Oh, yeah, I love that. It's funny because the front of our house is actually a garden. So we have this, we kind of put everything within the garden kind of space, you know. So it's fun. I love doing that. This time of year, especially, is there's just that feeling, kind of
Mm.
electric feeling, you know, the Halloween feeling. I'm with you. Halloween is a huge for us, and we gotta all get dressed up. We do the whole partying, and you know, and this year especially trick or treating because we couldn't do it last year, you know. So this year for sure we're like, okay, we gotta get it all, you know, amped up. We got 33 days to go, so let's get on it.
Are you going to be planting any spore related things anywhere?
Oh yeah, we've got some like posters and stuff like that, and we're definitely going to push as much as we can here locally too. You know, just to be, because there's a lot of people that are starting to know about it. Because we lived in Los Angeles for 21 years, and we just relocated back here three years ago. So yeah, we kind of been building a little bit of a, you know, trying to get everybody to know what we're doing and learning about the films. So it is funny though. I see a lot of spores and mushrooms kind of growing because it's been so there's been a lot of rain and stuff, you know, so every time we walk by and see a big thing of mushrooms, we're like, spore. Everybody yells Spore.
Nice free publicity for
It's
you.
yeah, it's free publicity, exactly.
And I guess obviously, going back to the film,
Hmm.
it's going to be showing at Grimfest alongside some other films. Why should people take a chance on this film? What does the Spore have to offer that maybe some of the other films don't have?
Well, I would say I think probably the biggest thing is it kind of goes back a little bit more to like the creature movies, which I haven't seen a lot of those lately. I mean, I know there's a lot of really intense horror films, and there's a lot of like haunting movies, and this isn't like a zombie film. I know a lot of people might be like, they might see an image and go, oh, this is a zombie movie, or it's a virus thing. It's not really a zombie movie. it's I think what sets it apart in a way is it just kind of, for me, it has this kind of fun creature thing to it, even though it's kind of bleak. But there's some there's a lot of cool effects in there, and it has that kind of thing. So if you're looking for something that has cool kind of body horror and creature stuff, that might be your type of film, like to go see something that is definitely this handmade. There's no computer generated anything in this movie, and it's all just also regional horror too. I kind of like that. I love movies that are done in like Korean horror films or anything that is specific to an area. So I feel like this has this sort of kind of Midwest horror feel to it, but could happen anywhere. That's what makes them horror good, right? Is it can kind of, that could happen anywhere, but it has a flavor of that space. So I would say that's maybe what might make it stand out a little bit for people to go see it.
And I guess, like you say, this is sort of centered in one area. Is there any scope, any ideas to sort of maybe expand it out and sort of see what might be happening, a little bit later in a different part of the country?
Yeah, I would love to expand on it, and I have an idea where it would actually kind of go more into like Body Snatchers kind of space, not so it's just like this big pandemic of Spore, but like, okay, maybe there's something even a little bit more crazy going on, like why are they mutating into these things and stuff. I would love to kind of dip into that and show you what would happen there, as I have an idea of once they kind of take off at the end of the movie or whatever, like, oh, this is where they go and this is what happens.
And I guess, have you started working on what your next project might be? Have you used your non-teaching, non-editing pandemic time wisely?
We actually shot another film in the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we I guess we've felt the need to be a little crazy, and we're like, oh, that one, it's great, we got that one done. And then while I was finishing editing of Spore, we started another movie, same crew, like very small tight crew. I know a lot of people kind of did this, like Ben Wheatley and some other people kind of like, let's go make a movie during the pandemic and see what happens. And so we make this sort of possession movie from the point of view of the possessed person. And so that movie is actually I believe will probably come out around first quarter, start of second quarter next year. And it's called Three Demons. And that one, I'm just finishing up doing music on it now. So yeah, we did that, and then I'll start another one. Just keep going.
Well, I'll wish you the best of luck with that and the best of luck with screening.
Yeah, thank you.